You won't believe what Janet Yellen said about CBDCs and stablecoins. I'll share the details with you, and the SEC's details around its appeal for the Ripple XRP lawsuit have been revealed, and John Deaton continues to destroy Elizabeth Warren in the debate where crypto has been brought up and much more. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for your cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, let's start by taking a look at the DXY and Bitcoin. The DXY is completely overbought. It is over 70 from an RSI metric standpoint, and I expect it to start breaking down. Obviously, it's a process. I wish it would happen right away, but these things don't happen in the hourly or the daily. Sometimes it happens over weeks. So let's be patient, but that's going to be very bullish for risk assets. As for Bitcoin, it is just hanging out above $67,000 after a significant move this week. And my hope is that this is building the support for us to break through $70,000. We need to watch Sunday, where the weekly close needs to be above 65,000. That would be very bullish. And we need to break through $70,000 because that is a big resistance level. And if we can close 65,000 on Sunday and next week blast through 70,000, that would be very bullish. And I anticipate this quarter now, I know October seems to have been canceled, but October is not over yet. If this quarter we are able to make those high for Bitcoin, it will pull the altcoins with it. The liquidity will flow down. Now the macro is aligning with global liquidity. The election cycle, we've seen markets rip when uncertainty has been resolved, with the election being resolved. So let's see what happens. These things could all align. So this is why we have to look at multiple factors. But right now, I'm watching the DXY very closely because that will be a big factor in having risk assets such as the stock market, Bitcoin, and altcoins start to move. Now, BlackRock, they are bullish because they continue to buy. Uncle Larry Fink and the investors at BlackRock know something we don't, or they're simply looking at the charts and the macro factors, like I've been telling you guys, not moving by emotions. The BlackRock ETF has now taken in $760 million in the past 3 days. $760 million, folks. Just yesterday alone, it was reported $391.8 million taken in. And in total, since the January launch, it took in $22.5 billion. BlackRock is not in the business of losing money. They want to make money. The fact that this amount of money is coming in as the year progresses and the price continues to rise shows that they anticipate higher highs, that new all-time highs are coming, and they're looking to make a profit for their clients, and they're looking to make a profit for themselves and their clients. Remember, they're in the business of making money, folks, and they're not the only ones. We got reports that $1.3 trillion asset manager Morgan Stanley discloses $272 million in Bitcoin ETF holdings. Do they know something you don't know? Or are they looking at the charts? Once again, the macro factors, the fundamentals, and having a long-term view. I think they see what's on the horizon. I hope you do as well. Very, very bullish news here. Now, guys, big news. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, old Janet Yellen, right? Down at the Treasury, pumping in liquidity through the markets. Well, today she spoke in front of the Council on Foreign Relations. This news is being reported by Kyle Campbell, who's a reporter covering the Federal Reserve and housing for the American Banker. Folks, here's what Janet Yellen had to say about CBDCs and stablecoins. On CBDC, Yellen said the US and other countries are exploring it. Here's a quote: "We want a fast, safe payment system. There are innovations taking place that are not CBDC, but nevertheless very significant innovations, like FedNow." Yellen is concerned about stablecoins, noting that it is like a bank deposit, but said for that to be true, the issuer needs to be backed by absolutely safe assets, liquid assets 100%, meaning they could be a significant demander of treasuries, says regulation is needed. Folks, we know the world governments are working on CBDCs. The question is, will they opt in to use stablecoins instead of CBDCs? I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think China obviously has a CBDC, And there's some other smaller countries testing this. In the United States, there's been talks of a digital dollar, but we have not seen anything yet. We're just hearing things, and we're seeing some breadcrumbs. And in the United States, we're seeing stable coins are getting significant market share, like USDC, you got USDT, you got PYUSD, and you have, of course, Ripple's stablecoin RLUSD, which is right around the corner. Now, Janet Yellen is right that stablecoins, we do need regulation. And we've been hearing that stablecoin regulations are going to be coming up for a vote very soon. So let's see, folks. Yellen obviously is going to know a lot at the Treasury, right? She's working with the Fed and all the people in the financial services part of the government. So she knows everything. And I think her statements here are very revealing. Now, one of the things she mentioned where she says stablecoins will have to be backed by treasuries. I think the United States government, part of the stablecoin legislation will be to require stablecoin issuers to back maybe 100% of their assets with US treasuries. That's going to be a big stipulation. In my recent interview with Jack McDonald, who heads up stablecoins at Ripple, I published that interview just 2 days ago. I asked him the question, do you think these stablecoin issuers will have to be plugged into the treasury? I think that's the direction we're going to head to. It won't happen now, but I think as the legislation comes in, these stablecoin issuers will be connected to the Fed and Treasury, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think it's pretty obvious what they're trying to do here and how the legislation will work. And this look will honestly help prevent depeggings and all these things. And as long as the Treasury doesn't have a button to wipe out the stable coins or do things to the blockchain, I'm fine with it. As long as that, if it's just like an API where they just get a feed of the data and they know how much liquidity is going in and out and, the stablecoin reserves are backed accordingly, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. This way we prevent collapses and depegging and so forth. The thing I worry about is if Janet Yellen can walk into Circle's office or Ripple's office, right, and do something that would affect the stablecoins, but that's TBD. We'll have to wait and see. And I'm sure the industry, Circle, Ripple, and all the others are not going to allow that. They're going to fight, even if the Treasury and Yellen and these guys try to do it. So very revealing statements here, folks. Now, today we got details of the SEC's appeal of the Ripple XRP lawsuit. We knew for about 2 weeks now that they intended to appeal and that they were going to give us the detail by filing a Form C. So here's what the SEC is appealing. Ripple's programmatic sales of XRP on digital asset trading platforms. Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson allege aiding and abetting of those programmatic sales on digital asset platforms or trading platforms. So they're bringing Chris Larson and Brad Garlinghouse back into this. Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson's personal offers and sales of XRP, Ripple's distribution of XRP to employees, etc. They are not appealing the monetary penalty of $125 million or Judge Torres's decision not to grant disgorgement. So that's interesting. Stuart Alderani, Chief Legal Officer at Ripple, said, no surprises here. Once again, it's being made clear the court's ruling that XRP is not a security is not being appealed. That decision stands as the law of the land. Stay tuned for Ripple's Form C to be filed next week. So the fact that they're not appealing this is very bullish for the market. It may not be entirely bullish. The other factors may not be entirely bullish for Ripple and Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, but that doesn't concern me necessarily. They have to figure that out and fight that. The point that we've been fighting along with like John Deaton is to say that the tokens themselves intrinsically are not securities. It depends on the offering. Like it was in the Howey test, it wasn't the orange groves, the orange trees, or the oranges, because those are just fruits and plants, right? It was the packaging. Howey said, come invest in my orange groves and I'll give you X returns and yada, yada, right? But the orange groves in Florida right now and the oranges in the supermarket or in your house obviously are not securities because intrinsically they're just things. They're just fruits. It's about the packaging. Now, Gary Gensler would like to make everything a security because he's a scumbag regulator, but the law of the land is greater than him and his buffoonery. So here's what Meta Lawman had to say, though, because what's weird is folks were looking for this filing last night because the deadline was October 16th, but Meta Lawman James Murphy said the court's file stamp on the document is October 17. So will the judge throw this out? Some people are saying, look, it's Gary Gensler is a lawless individual, and federal agencies will often help out each other. So most likely, even if this thing was late, it won't be a roadblock for the SEC. Unfortunately, if you and I do this, we would be in trouble. Gary Gensler and the SEC does it, just business as usual, which is pathetic. Now, folks, before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor here, and that is BitGo, which is one of the top tier crypto custodians in the market. BitGo is working with many big brands and companies, folks, including Pantera Capital, that's Dan Moorhead. They're working with 21 Shares, so they help to custody some of the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF assets. They work with Polygon, Bitstamp Exchange, and many more. Nike uses BitGo's wallet services for their NFTs, and they have a great retail self-custody wallet that you can check out. So BitGo is very trusted. They have many great services that are insured, top-tier security, and much more. And they're headed up by Mike Belchi, who is a Web 1.0 and 2.0 legend. So if you'd like to learn more about BitGo, visit bitgo.com, link in the description. Now, guys, this is very interesting news. The FBI arrests the man behind the SEC Twitter hack who posted the fake Bitcoin ETF approval. If you recall, the SEC's account got hacked, Gary Gensler and all these guys, right? You would think an agency which, always tries to teach you with videos and all these things to protect your identity and do this, they did a bad job protecting their own accounts. So the SEC Twitter account hacker, his name is Eric Council. He's a 25-year-old, once again arrested by the FBI. So we'll have to wait and see what his sentencing and all that's going to be. And I don't know too much about his background, but I'm sure people are going to find the details. Now, guys, I'm not sure how many of you caught the debate between Elizabeth Warren and John Deaton tonight. It was number 2. Number 1 was the other day. I posted a clip of that on the channel. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And of course, crypto was brought up. And boy, John Deaton continues to expose and destroy Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is a corrupt career politician. We know that she's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She pretends to be anti-bank, but she's been getting a lot of bank donations. She's friends with Jamie Dimon. We saw they partnered together, tried to attack crypto and much more. We know this, right? And this is not an anti-Democrat statement. That's not the point. The point is there are corrupt politicians in the government, both on the Republican and Democrat side. What I'm trying to highlight here is Elizabeth Warren, make no mistake about it, is one of the most corrupt individuals in the history of government. She pretends to be this sweet old granny, right? I'm this sweet little old granny. Look at me. I'm for the little people. I hate banks and so forth. No, my friends. And it's only until I started paying attention to what was happening in crypto that I saw her footprints all over the place and what she's been up to. One of the most corrupt folks. And I'm not saying that as hyperbole or because I love crypto, but I've been to Washington, D.C. I've been on Capitol Hill. I've spoken to many different people in D.C., folks, and straight up facts. And she has her cronies placed in every different parts of the government. And we know how she's been working with Gary Gensler. And one of the things John Deaton did tonight, he exposed her agenda against crypto, where he highlighted that she sent Gary Gensler the questions and answers ahead of hearings. So John has balls of steel, man. He's been calling her out on JP Morgan and Epstein and much more. It's pretty amazing. And John is a warrior. He has my respect to the highest degree. It takes balls to do this to a career politician, and he called her corrupt to her face. That made my day. John is not holding back, man. And, Elizabeth Warren, of course, she's lying. She tries to frame things, but John is being very surgical in how he's exposing her. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And once again, this is not anti-Democrat. I'm an independent. So I agree with certain things Republicans have on their agenda. I agree with certain things that Democrats have on the agenda. And I wish there was a true third-party independent candidate that could really run, because I think that helps to bring a healthy balance. But guys, John is just doing an amazing job here. Now, Donald Trump, there's some big statements made by Representative Byron Donalds, who I had on the podcast a couple of years ago. He said Donald Trump could dismantle crypto regulatory headlock. So he spoke at Block Tower's Investor Day in Miami and said Donald Trump is ready to clean house at the regulatory agencies. So obviously Representative Byron Donalds is a Republican, but he's certainly one of the top folks in Congress. Now, Donald Trump's World Liberty Financial did a pre-sale. They raised $12 million, 4% of their $300 million target. Trump will get 75% of all revenue, including pre-sale proceeds, but first 30 million is reserved for expenses. So look, I am still doing my research on here. I'm being cautiously optimistic. I'm not jumping head in. Even if you're a Trump fan and you love Donald Trump and you're voting for him, be careful here. And I said this in a previous podcast because you don't know who the developers are. You don't know if the Trump's kids who are running this know what they're doing. I'm not trying to say anything bad. I'm just trying to say verify, don't trust, verify when it comes to your money and crypto tokens. So just be careful, right? And I'm not saying he's going to steal your money or rug you. That's not what I'm saying. The point is, I've been around the block. I worked at a crypto exchange. If your developers, if the people running certain things don't know what they're doing, there could be hackers who can exploit things and you can lose your money, right? And I hope that doesn't happen, guys, like I said before, because that would be really bad for the industry. And they would call out Trump on his crypto stance saying, you're just saying this because you want money. But I hope this thing goes okay. I wish he didn't do this. I don't think this is a smart move. Once again, nothing against Trump specifically, just this project is very risky for a presidential candidate to do. Moving on, we got big news from Moonpay. Venmo's 60 million users in the US can now buy crypto using Moonpay. This new integration lets you buy all your favorite cryptocurrencies using your Venmo balance. Live now and rolling out soon onto the Moonpay partner network. So we continue to see the infrastructure being built on and off ramps for different people around the world, both for institutional and retail investors. And that's very bullish as the asset class continues to grow. It'll allow more people to come into the asset class, build and invest and do much more. Now, guys, I got two major interviews coming up that I want to highlight. I will be interviewing the head of blockchain and crypto at EY, which is one of the top accounting firms in the world, Ernst & Young. And that interview will happen tomorrow. And I will also be interviewing the CTO of crypto and blockchain at PayPal. So PayPal is doing a lot. They got a stablecoin, they offer crypto trading and much more. What questions would you like me to ask? Leave them in the comment section below. Email me, DM me on Twitter, whatever it may be. And if you recall, PayPal and EY and Google Cloud, they both use Coinbase for B2B payments and they leverage the PYUSD stablecoin to settle some invoices. So big things are happening with these massive enterprises. And I'm going to bring you the interviews, guys. So please support me by subscribing, thumbs up, leave a comment. Subscribe to my free email newsletter. It is 100% free. It's available on Substack. Link will be in the description. Also support me by grabbing a copy of my book. It's available on Amazon in paperback and digital. Buy a copy for yourself. Buy a few copies for your friends and family who want to learn about crypto. That would really help me out, guys. And if you bought a copy already, leave a rating and review on Amazon. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.